Love Thy Neighbour.
Blimey, you look a bit rough. I feel bloody rough as well, I tell you.
Here come the blacks.
Right, lads, spread out and keep your positions. And remember, we pick it by the rule book. Peaceful persuasion.
Hey, what if we don't persuade them?
We knock the big blackheads in.
Right.
No, are you going to let us pass?
No. You want to rejoin the union?
No.
No. Well, accomplish here.
That is violence of the tongue.
If you don't get back, you get violence in the fist. That's telling him, Eddie.
You know, that 70s show. No, not that 70s show. That 70s show. Man, what's up, man? We back with another video, and I'm here with like something different, like a mini doc, kind of, on like all the negative history that surrounded Love Thy Neighbor. Obviously, if you watch my channel, you know I've watched several episodes of this show, but I kind of want to see why everyone had their issues with it. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to kind of look into all the history. I mean, part of it is now the generation that has followed this show is a more sensitive generation. It is a generation that, like, the way you joke around now is a lot different from the way you joked around back in the 70s. The biggest question, should Love Thy Neighbor reruns still be on TV today? That is the biggest question that I want to answer in this video. And right now I have a YouTube clip from a video that I want to show. So I'm going to show that clip, and then I'll come back after the clip.
The tendency for people to get outraged just by certain sort of trigger words without actually seeing what the point of the use of those words actually is. So obviously the language that he uses, the words are terribly offensive, but the whole point of the show is to paint this guy as a horrendously nasty, intolerant, racist pig dog. So the sympathetic point of the sympathetic figure in the whole show is actually the black guy who moves in next door to him. So the whole point is it was done in the 70s when these sorts of attitudes, and it's interesting we called him a white supremacist when we were introducing it, because that's exactly what he sounds like now. In those days, he would have been seen as perhaps, you know, a bit old-fashioned or whatever. And the whole point of the show is to highlight his appalling attitudes.
They actually had consultants from the anti-racist organisations working on the show to do it.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at it in the context of its time and things like that. I think it was groundbreaking for its time. I don't think there's a problem with it playing now. As if anyone's going to look at it and think, well, that's today. It's not. It's like banning Gone with the Wind.
I think we could go a step further and look at, is there something that we can do in terms of understanding different cultures within Australia? Because that was really impactful. It wasn't just that the man was a white supremacist, but his wife was the voice of reason as well.
Yeah.
She thought he was a goose. And I think that this is a really powerful medium, and it's one that should be explored in terms of issues we're trying to deal with in our society.
I think the audience has also got to take a lot of responsibility in this. I think what the people who made this show were doing is exactly what we're saying. They were trying to paint this guy as a goose. They had this battle royale between the black family, the white family, but there was sort of a voice of reason, as you say. But one thing that was going on while this show was airing is that the people watching it didn't see that sort of context. They didn't see those layers. All they did was laugh every time he said, that guy's a nignog. And that is the crazy thing about it, is that you'll get audiences, and I've had them in my audience, where I'll be talking about racism in my shows, and I'll make fun of racists by doing something a little ironic to paint the racists, and then people will laugh in a corner of the audience, and I go, I know you're laughing for the wrong reasons.
Because they think you're endorsing it.
They don't get
But
what
there'll
I'm
always
doing.
be people like
I think that's true, but I don't think that's the whole audience.
Yeah.
I think certainly sections of the audience would have thought,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what you think about what we're discussing. This is from Stacey. Yes, watching it as a child just showed me how not to treat other races. It really was a comedy, putting down the racist man by showing how ridiculous being racist is. And another one from Lynn, was fun and funny at the time. Not sure we need it now. Will look extremely dated, which is not a bad thing in itself because our attitudes have been dragged forward since.
As you see, like, we got people now saying that this show is important to showing people race relations and everything. And people have to understand, in the context of this show, Britain was not used to, and immigration was new from all these mass cultures in the 70s. this was new to Britain, so this whole situation was being like kind of like a play on current events, because the attitude towards mass immigration in Britain in the early 1970s was not the best. They felt the same way that Eddie did in the show. They felt like these black people are encroaching on our land and all this. That's how they felt in the 70s. But you also have to understand that in the 70s, just in general, pop culture was testing race in the 70s. I mean, dude, this is the same guy who wrote Love Thy Neighbor wrote Mind Your Language, which is literally a show perpetuating every racial stereotype there is. Look at Mind Your Language and tell me that's not a racial stereotype show. Like, literally every character in that show is a stereotype. So, you know what I'm saying? What's the point? Even I'm gonna show you, even Rudolph Walker himself, the guy who played Bill in the show, has had this to say about it. Love Thy Neighbor in the 70s was the most highly rated program on television. It was peak time viewing. The basic premise was a black couple living next to a white couple. The white neighbor was a bigot. The dialogue was peppered with terms such as honkies and nignogs. Here we are in 2001. A lot of people still think that show was racist, but it was the 1970s. You cannot compare them to now. And Love Thy Neighbor was very clever comedy. In nearly every show, the white neighbor was shown to be wrong. I was also blackface on the screen at a time when you didn't see black faces on the screen. That sort of exposure just hadn't happened before, and it inspired a lot of young, aspiring actors. I kill myself laughing now because when I watch Love Thy Neighbor, all it is at the end of the day is a black guy and a white guy being damn stupid. The script really had nothing to do with color. The people who wrote it also wrote Bless This House, which also starred Jack Smethurst. At the read-through, Jack would recognize the scenes. He said they just lifted some of these directly from the scripts of Bless This House, and Bless This House had nothing to do with color. And again, the thought police, the several like anti-racism organizations wanted to kill the show and destroy the show. If we're gonna listen, my opinion, it is a way to teach. It is a way to instruct. It's a way to show people, like they were saying in the clip I showed in the beginning. This is a way to show people how stupid racism is. When you make the racist look stupid, you make the act of racism seem really dumb. Because Eddie would always get his comeuppance every show. Like every time he did something stupid, he would end up paying for it. Like the language is dated, the language is hard, but that was how a lot of people thought back then. A lot of people, I'm not saying the majority of people in Britain, but a lot of people thought that way. Trust me, a lot of people did. They wouldn't have made the show if people didn't think that way. Just like I said earlier, if you're going to get offended over this, you need to be offended over Mind Your Language. You need to be offended over All in the Family, definitely. The Jeffersons, Good Times. The 70s was an era for racy tropes in shows. That was the era, the decade. Like the 60s and 70s, right after Brown versus Board of Education, all that. This is when they started pulling out all the shows that are like racially based. Because they were just trying to test the culture. Because this was new. But I don't think you should cancel it. I think you should have these shows out today to give these people, like, not like little kids, but like obviously younger people, more positive attitudes on like how not to deal with people, on how not to be towards other races and people of other cultures. You know what I'm saying? Like the show was funny. The show is funny. I'm still going to continue to watch the show, even though yes, I am a black person, and oh my God, he's indirectly calling me a Sambo. Why not? But anyway, people just need to not be so sensitive. People just need to understand that if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. You don't need to try to cancel something just because you don't like it. Like, other people might want to see it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed that. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'm out. Peace. Oh, I got a clip on the way out.
It is not a load of rubbish. It's proper custom, as laid down by the Labour Party and the trade union movement.
Ah, cobblers.
I'll thank you to remember you're a guest in this country. And as such, you should do us the courtesy of observing our customs.
Man, it is so hypocritical. You call me brother, right? But do you really think of me as a brother?
So long as you're a fully paid-up member of the union, you're entitled to be called brother.
Quite right, Brother Eddie.
Thank you, Brother Arthur. My personal opinion of you as a nignog has got nothing to do with it.